Hi, this is Trent Clark, and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am the CEO of Leadershipity. I am a serial entrepreneur. I spent over 12 years in professional baseball coaching in 3 World Series, and I speak on a stage internationally all over the world. And I have a fabulous friend with me today, Aleksandra Efimova. And Aleksandra, say hello.
Trent, great to be on your show. And from the first day we met a few years ago, I always been contagiously engaged with your energy, with your enthusiasm, and with your commitment to help other entrepreneurs succeed. It's a great pleasure to be on your show today.
Oh, wow, Aleksandra, that means so much to me. I love that. Our show, and Aleksandra she's a 1%er, folks. You're going to love it. Our show is all about that time. And I want you to think, have you ever faced stiff adversity? Felt like the losses are mounting? You need to find a better way. I think you came to the right place. Whether you are already an entrepreneur, an elite athlete, a business leader, or you're just looking to start your journey today to being elite, this is the place for you to learn. And that's what we provide each and every week. Check us out on our show, our podcast, subscribe, like us, love us. We love you, and we're happy to bring it to you. So, Aleksandra, for everyone, if you have a message to give or a question to ask Aleksandra during the show, please put in the chat. I will try to monitor the chats on the different live feeds. And I thank you for all being with us and joining. And I will have a time at the end where we're going to do that. I want to talk quickly, Aleksandra, about a few highlights about you. But before I do that, why don't you tell them where they can find you online? Like, how do they get in touch with you if they say, I want to know about you?
Trent, thank you for such a warm introduction. My website is aleksandra.com. My Instagram is aleksandra.y.efimova, and my LinkedIn is Aleksandra Efimova.
All right, so let's get into Aleksandra. She's the CEO of the RP Group International, founded in 98, a premier brand of footwear, apparel, accessories, and wellness products. You may know the brand Russian Pointe, a very favorable brand, especially in the dance world, of course. And on wellness side, Flex. She is the CEO of FLX, Flex. Extensive experience in entrepreneurship, collaboration among individuals, organizations, business, nonprofit, governmental, education sectors. Executive diploma from Harvard, went to Eastern Michigan University. You were the EY Entrepreneur of the Year finalist in 2017. Pretty awesome. You've been on the Inc. 5000 list. Awesome. Featured in many news, NBC, Newsweek, Bloomberg, Forbes Women, Crain's Detroit. You've done a ton of things. Let me pause there before I tell them more about you. But like, that is a lot. You know, one of the things that I love about you is that you have just never stopped. And you just keep delivering like high quality information and content and products to people in a space where wellness and the quality of those products in that space maintain their wellness through that. And I think it's so important. Talk to us a little bit about that, about your mission there.
Thank you, Trent, for such a warm introduction. And you know, when you say it all together in this 30 seconds, it does seem like a lot. But
it is a lot.
But when I go and do it every day, it just seems like that's what naturally needs to happen. We have a goal. We have a small goal. We need to step. We have an objective. We have a challenge. We need to overcome it. We have an opportunity. Let's take it on. I do a lot of hiking. I'm actually in Park City, Utah right now for the entire month to conquer some of these mountains here. And when I start the hike, sometimes I can't even see the tip of the mountain, right? It could be covered in snow. It could be covered with the clouds, but I know it's there. It's another 14 that I want to conquer. And what do we stop? We stop with not tripling on the next rock. We start on crossing that creek. And one step at a time, it goes further and further. So this is how it's been in my life in all aspects, with the business, with nonprofit organizations, with positions I've been asked to hold, and with a lot of athletic activities as well. So you keep an eye on a big goal, on a far peak of the mountain, even if you can't see it, but you focus on making sure you do the right thing right now on your small step in front of you.
I love it. I love it. I mean, you were heavily involved in women's entrepreneurship, international relations. Want to get into that. Multiple boards, mentoring, consulting, coaching. And I think there is kind of a theme here of students, of entrepreneurs, of athletes. There's a tribe that you kind of subscribe to. Is that fair?
Well, I chose my businesses to be in the field that I'm actually very passionate about. And dance was my childhood passion. I danced in Russia in St. Petersburg. Then I danced for University of Michigan ballroom dance team. So that's how the Russian Pointe brand started. And then it evolved into FLX and many other things. So I always align what I do professionally with what I am passionate about as an individual, where I see the mega growth in our world as an industry, right? There's mega growth, mega industries that we're seeing even right now, right? Mobile lifestyle, people live longer, focus on wellness and health, technology, right? So I always look for that industry that is growing, because building business is hard, but it is easier to build a business in the industry with a tailwind than a headwind.
Yes.
And I also looked for the things that have a positive impact on people and what people are willing to pay for and where my skills are. So somewhere between those four big circles of my passions and hobbies, mega trends, my skills and expertise, and what people are willing to work for, I found those golden circles of the things that I focus both personally and professionally. And that's how the mentorship also came out, because I want to share it with other aspiring entrepreneurs. Because when I started the business at age 20, it was really, really hard. I didn't have coaches. I didn't have mentors. And I probably would have gone faster and more successfully if I had somebody to guide and coach me. But over the times, I learned that I need to ask for help, and I need to be not to be shy and ask advice, ask for help, and most importantly, listen to it.
I think that's really, by the way, great plug for a coach, folks. Did you hear that, leadershipity? You need a coach. Like, get yourself a coach. Get yourself a trusted advisor, a guide. I love that, and I think you're so right. And from an athletic standpoint, where I came from, and theater, I mean, it's constant feedback, coaching, feedback. That sounded good. Got to lighten the tone here. Got to get your elbow up and play. It's always constant feedback. Okay. Not coachable. Not getting it, doesn't have the ability to adapt. I mean, all these things come in and it hurts us. I want to jump to Russian Pointe for a minute, because big celebration, 21st anniversary now for Russian Pointe. And you launched the 5, 6, 7, 8 podcast, right?
Yeah, so actually, this year we celebrated 23rd anniversary of Russian Pointe. I started the company in 98. On the 21st anniversary, 2 years ago, I started podcast 5, 6, 7, 8. Podcast for people in the move, where we talk about goal setting, overcoming challenging, role models and mentors, finding your niche in the industry. And most of my audience and the guests are dancers or people in the dance industry, but what we really talk about applies to everybody. And then also in 2019, 2 years ago, I acquired the FLX stretch training company.
I love it. So I was a huge fan of Fame growing up. And by the way, Aleksandra and I only grew up about an hour apart. And I want to talk a little bit about in a way, okay? I want to first of all talk a little bit about the Russian immigration over to Ann Arbor, Michigan area. And I'm a Battle Creek, Michigan product here. So that is about 78 miles apart, like where we are. But we didn't meet till, I think, I was in my 40s. So I was, later that we met. But I grew up on Fame. I love that show. And I just think of Debbie Allen, the actress, 5, 6, 7, 8, let's go, let's hit it, and she's coaching and she's giving it. And so when you had that podcast name, I just loved it. I was like, oh, that takes me back to, here we go. 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, here we go. This is a get ready. It's about to happen. And for people who haven't been around the theater or dance, like, this is the cue. It's go time.
Yep, it's go time in dance, and go time in life, and go time in business.
I love it. So let's talk for a minute about so you're Russian. And I love your name is like so pretty, right? Like, I don't know if everyone sees it. If they see how we spell your name, right, very quickly, they go, oh, wow, Aleksandra, like, I recognize that name is not the English speaking, right? Or the English way to spell. So I don't know if people always know when they meet you that you are Russian, and you came here at what age to the United States?
I came in 1993. I was 1 month away from turning 16 years old. And we came with my family to Ann Arbor, Michigan. My stepfather is American. He was a U.S. naval officer, graduate of Georgetown and University of Michigan MBA. He met my mother in Ann Arbor when she was invited to come and teach art for several months. And it's a lovely love story. They fell in love, and we moved here in the summer of 93.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so and of course, you went on to do ballroom dancing for the University of Michigan. Tell me a little bit about what you've seen there as far as people love ballroom dancing now, right? They put it on TV shows. They've done all sorts of different things. Like when I was a kid, when I thought of ballroom dancing, I thought of like Lawrence Welk, right? Like that was kind of our association. Now we think ballroom dancing, the skill, the technique, the fitness, the costume, like it's pageantry, right? And it's something really now that I find people have, and the most unlikely people I meet are passionate about it and into it. And I'm like, really, ballroom dancing? And they're like, oh yeah, like we love it. Like, wow, it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, the beauty of dance in general is that it's an incredible workout. It helps with the posture, flexibility, and hand-eye coordination through your entire day. Specifically about ballroom dancing, there's such a wide spectrum, right? There's everything from sexy salsa to romantic foxtrot and Viennese, from seductive Argentine tango, and everything else in between. So really, you can find the type of dance or the group of dances that fits your personality the most and your partners, and for your physical abilities, right? We see 7-year-olds doing ballroom dancing, and then we see 80 and 90-year-olds doing ballroom dancing. So it's really a form of dance and exercise forever. Plus, it's a great social activity. So if you and your partner choose to do some salsa dancing or Argentine tango, it just becomes one more thing that binds you, unites you, creates some chemistry, and it's a great way to steal the dance floor at the next wedding party.
Yeah, that's right. I love it. I love it. And we've had dance studios in our country forever, right? Like, and I don't know if people always notice them. Like if you drive by, like, hey, here's a dance studio right over here. And if you don't frequent those, you may not notice them, but they are almost in every city. You have it regular. So I want to pivot here to a little bit about you as a child, right? 15, 16 years old coming over here, that may be impactful, but tell us the most impactful pivot point you had as a child or as a teen when you knew you were destined, or at least wanted, for entrepreneurship, owning your own brand, like really taking this autonomous role of developing your team and this service and this product and the give and the mission that you are on today?
Trent, it's a very good question. And now I live in America for 28 years. So to answer your question about my passion and entrepreneurship, I'm going to take a step back to my childhood in Soviet Union and put a little bit of a framework around how I grew up and really what my upbringing was, because it's very different from most of our audience. So growing up in Soviet Union, it was just as Soviet Union was. Everything was controlled by the government. Everything was provided by the government. Healthcare.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but we are Cold War kids, right? This was late 70s, early 80s when you're small, and this is pretty heavy Cold War. We had in the U.S. we knew well about our Carter went through the whole 40 that was kept in Afghanistan. That at that time, I think it was Afghanistan at the time. And it was a long-standing thing that were going on that I remember tracking in elementary school, and it was Cold War drills, like under the desks. This could happen, and things were that. So I want to preface that to take people back to a time that was a very serious. This was not a Russia and U.S. was in a lovey-dovey relationship in any way. Fair?
Very true and very well said. So we were doing the same thing on the other side of the ocean. We were doing drills under our tables.
That's right.
And there was military training in public schools where we literally learned how to wear a gas mask and how to take a gun apart and put it back together and march to the flag. So all of that was reality, and all men were mandatory going to the army for 2 years upon the graduation from high school. So everything was provided by the government. Government gave us housing, depending on the quota that they decided how much housing and how many square meters per person we should have. And then if you have more kids in the family and you exceed that quota, they put you in line for the next few years until the next buildings will be built where you'll get a quota. And then they'll give you that house or apartment in a neighborhood in the building that is just available. Not that you want to live in that neighborhood or you want your kids to go to that school or it's convenient to your work. That was just they gave you. They provided healthcare. So healthcare was free, if we can call it free. But then you would stay in line for hours to see a doctor. You will wait for weeks and months to get a surgery. You'll go to the drugstore, and the pharmacist will say, "I'm so sorry, there's no medicine on the shelves." And hopefully in a week or two, we'll get another delivery. Yes, maybe it will cost a dime, but there's nothing to buy. But another big thing that separates Russia, Soviet Union from America is back then, there was no privately owned businesses. So everybody worked for the government. Everybody made the same amount of money, whether you were a janitor, teacher, or brain surgeon. And I did not grow up in the environment where I even heard about opportunity to own your own business. None of my relatives own a business. It was a completely foreign concept for me. Yeah. So when I came to America with, America is the land of opportunity, I was blessed to have some business classes at the high school. And in one of our business classes, we literally learned how to fill out our own tax return and learn what is taxes and how do you pay taxes? How do you fill this out? How do you actually make it? So I actually filled out my own first tax return in high school. And that was a great learning experience. So I hope the schools continue teaching things like this. And then when I was in university, my university, Eastern Michigan, offered an entrepreneurship class. And that was back in the 96, 97. So the whole entrepreneurial spirit was really in its birth stages when it comes to universities and comes to business organizations. Like you and I met at the entrepreneur organization. There's so many organizations now available. Back in the late 90s, not so much, especially when it comes to students. But my university was one of the first ones to offer entrepreneurship class. And that's when my eyes started opening up. I'm like, this is amazing. I can have my own business. And it just sounds like really American dream for me. So that's how I came to the idea is that I want to do this.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's so interesting because I don't think most people can process being a 14, 15-year-old kid and not considering like we walk into the ice cream shop or we walk into the hair salon or we walk into Home Depot. And what do you mean you can't own your business? Everybody owns a business. In fact, 5 of my friends down the street, their mom or dad owns a company, right? And so we hear it all the time of people that own the dry cleaners and we know their families. And so it's not foreign in any way to us. And then when you talked about that, I mean, I was staggered. We've talked a lot about this, offline, but I just was staggered about you getting medical treatment as a child and being in a hospital room with 16 other kids. Like this isn't, we don't understand that here, right? Like we don't, what do you mean with 15, 16 other kids? How's that work? Right. And I was
in the toilet down the hallway for the entire floor. For
the entire floor.
Yeah.
At a hospital where the toilet is a pretty important thing, usually in a hospital, right? I mean, people aren't exactly healthy here at where we're at, right? Let's move to, I love this quote by Chris McChesney and Sean Covey. They wrote a book called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. As you probably have read it, you're a well-read person. Winners, when shown data that they are losing, find a way to win. So let's talk a little bit about your background. I mean, that allowed you to become one of the 1% in business and life here. I mean, very few people get to own a brand like you do. And I mean, and you've done it now over 23 years. And we know as entrepreneurs, the 5-year mark is like a huge hurdle. Like if you get there, it's like victory is mine, 23 years. Like that's amazing, right? So talk to me a little bit about on this journey where did you ever feel there was a time where you were just up against it? You were just down, maybe not out, but you felt like, hey, this is getting pretty dark and you had to come back and win. Maybe down, but not out. Tell me a time in your life that you kind of felt that way.
A road to success is never paved with trophies and awards.
Yeah.
It's like an iceberg, right? 10% of the iceberg is on top and 90 is underground, under the water. Yeah. So 90%, it's the hard work. It's the hurdle. It's the blisters of hard work. It's the pain and it's the failures. I started the company in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And then in 2005, I moved to Chicago because I felt like for the growth of the international brand in a field of the apparel and footwear and the arts, I would benefit from being in a big city. So I settled in Ann Arbor, Michigan and opened a beautiful office in downtown. In addition, I opened a beautiful retail showroom store. And being brand new in the city, still struggling to build a business, not having really mentors, coaches, or investors, it was very, very challenging. I had to rebuild my whole team from ground zero of hiring people. I didn't have any friends. And Chicago is a great city for opportunities, but also it's a tough city. It's brutally cold in the winter. There's 11 million people. So you need to really work hard. And I remember in 1 week, my store was flooded, and the office and the warehouse was all together. It all got flooded. And the same week, we had a fire. So I just wish it all happened in the same hour. Maybe it would even each other out, but no, it didn't. And you kind of look at this situation and you say, am I going to rebuild? What am I going to do? I mean, and it's all on my shoulders. I wasn't even 30 years old back then. And what helps me keep moving in the challenging situations like this, just like situation we all faced a little bit over a year ago with COVID, when my sales dropped 90% because recitals were canceled, summer camps were canceled, gyms were closed, stores were closing, right? What do? Do you pull yourself together and you fight through without knowing what's on the other end? And how long is that tunnel of darkness? And when you're going to see any lights, and is it going to be the lights of the field and the fresh air, or is it going to be a train moving towards you where the headlines is going to hit you again? So moments like this helps me go back to the core reasons why I chose to be an entrepreneur back 23 years ago. And over the years, the reasons why I chose to be an entrepreneur and why I continue choosing to be an entrepreneur change. Because the life changed, I changed, the world changed, my needs and desires and goals change. And that's why it's so important for me, and I highly recommend it for everybody, to do this journaling on a regular basis and ask yourself those big questions. Is it still relevant what I do? Why do I choose this way versus that way? Why do I choose to be an entrepreneur versus work for somebody? Why do I choose to be an entrepreneur in this business and not in another? Why do I choose to live in this city and not that? Because we all have regrets down the road when we hit hard times. And it's so important in those moments of regrets to me, not to blame myself and not to make a quick decision to quit, but to go back to the core and realize why I made this decision back then, and I'm continuing with this. So through many challenges, from the fire to the flood in the same week, to the COVID, to the employee committing theft, through the economic challenges, from the volcano in Iceland that shuts down all the airways for months. And we all face it for internal and external reasons, but we need to know and be very clear and actually write it down for ourselves so we can turn fully clear on why we chose this path. So we can't blame anybody, because at one point of our life, we need to take full responsibility and accountability for our personal decisions because there was nobody else that should be blamed.
I love that. I think that's so good. There's two things I think about when I think about you being down and out, right? The first is related to your climbing. You're a very experienced and high level climber and hiker. And so we talked a little bit about this before, where most people want to head up to the peak, and I may not even be able to see where that peak is. I ultimately know where I want to get. There are going to be challenges on this way, and like, I'm going to overcome them. I'm going to the peak. It's my end goal. And I also know it's not going to be easy. And so I'm prepared for that. So that's one thing I want you to talk a little bit about. And the second thing is after seeing what you've seen as a young lady growing up in the Soviet Union at the time, which was pretty tough. I mean, it was tough times there. And in fairness to them, I mean, economically, things weren't always perfect either there. So, but does anything seem so hard to overcome now for you, because you're like thinking, hey, I'm here and I got a chance, right? So talk to me about those two things.
So let's start with the last question.
Okay.
Growing up in the conditions when the government shuts off your hot water on a regular basis just because, and sometimes it's a month at a time, and people have little babies, people need to wash dishes, people just need to take a shower.
Yeah. Yeah.
Growing up in a country where you stay in line for food every single day. It wasn't American propaganda when you saw pictures of people staying in line. That's what it was. And then the grandma goes to the store, goes in line for meat, and then puts me in line for bread. By the time that line reaches, they might run out of that food or any food, but two people before you, and you have no control over it. When you wait to see a doctor and there's no medicine or no hospital beds available, when you take public transportation and you're stuck in the public transportation like sardines, and there's no other way to get to work and school, and you still do this, and living in a 600 square foot apartment, 5 family members, and thinking this is a luxury because somebody across the hallway has only 450. So when you live through all of these conditions, and at the same time, you have great conversations over the table with your friends. You share simple meals, whether it's a piece of bread with some jam that you picked at the forest, and you participate in the arts. You learn the sports. You appreciate your culture and poetry where you came from, and higher education. When you come to America, where things just work, it is so mind-boggling to me that, first of all, somebody would not appreciate just the convenience of life here. Somebody wouldn't appreciate the opportunity this country presents, and most importantly, being rewarded for these opportunities. So to me, this is, it's now hands to build. We're not entitled to anything. But if America presents you and as a land of opportunity to be the best you can be, it is still our work and our commitment and our diligence that will help us earn that. So that's my take on, seeing what we can do here and really seeking this and taking this. And especially we live in such an interesting time. I mean, we have such a diversity already of people who succeeded, right? We have leadership positions that now taken by people of all kinds of backgrounds, religious backgrounds, cultural, ethnical. I mean, all young people. We have 27-year-old congresswomen and congressmen, and I think that's remarkable. So look at the bigger picture. Decide for yourself where you want to go, who you want to be as an individual, what kind of projects you want to work on, what kind of problems you want to solve, and who do you want to surround yourself with. And do something every day to move you towards those goals. And do choose something that you actually love and you believe in.
Well, I love that. As you talk about that, I don't think about in my mind until you said it, when there's a challenge, right? And we're losing. What we do know is there's a bunch of resources to help us win. Like you said earlier, there's coaches, there's I can get better, I can train, I can do all these things, I can get better equipment, I could call, and I'll be a better dancer if I get better gear, I could call Aleksandra. I mean, there's all sorts of resources available. Where you described that made me feel like, well, I don't have any resources because I don't get to control that the food ran out 3 people before me. And it's not like I'm going out and having a farm. I have 600 square feet, right? Like that's all I get. And I don't have land. I don't have equipment to do it. The resources just aren't available. And I think it's the only thing and this is a, an injustice of a thought, but the only thing I can equate it to as a 50-year-old man with 5 kids is how much resource technology's brought to my children that we didn't have when I was in school. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I had to find this stuff, like we actually did all have encyclopedias, right? Because you had to look up the data and you had to go to the library and find 20 books and go sit in there for 6 hours. And now we Google it in 12 seconds, we know the information, right? And I'm thinking the resources are so different that they have that we didn't. And when I hear I can't do something out of these young kids, I freak out. I'm like, oh my gosh, don't even use that word around me, man. I will lose it, right? So talk to me now. Let's pivot a minute. And thank you for those words. I mean, I tell you that makes me feel, it makes me feel proud as American, as just like what we provide. Immigrants have built this country from the word go. And that's the reality of the deal. And that was the entire design was to provide opportunity for people. And like we know, there are no guarantees in this life. We're not promised tomorrow. No, and no one's immune from facing our maker probably at one point. That will happen. And we're not going to outlive it. So let's pivot though to the climb. The climb of these challenges. Like you don't always know, but yet you've got skill, you've got repetition, you've got experience. Talk to me about why it works on the climb and you reach your goal and what you expect. Talk to me a little bit about that.
To me, it starts with the mindset that failure is not an option. It was not an option for me when I started the business and I came to America. It's not an option now. I have responsibility in front of my team who've been supporting me now for decades, who believed in me and who work tirelessly for the entire team's success. I have responsibility in front of my clients who believed in me and brought in our brand, my brand, into their stores and support us. I have responsibility in front of vendors, dozens of factories who we work with and give them a lot of business, which helps to help their families. So, back then, when I started the business, I was self-sufficient. My parents did not have a lot of money. They had another child. So I was really left up to me if I want to go to university. And if I want to go to university, which one? And if I choose to go where, please apply and figure out how you're going to pay for it. Whether you're going to work, get scholarships, get, financial aid, and so on. So when I was faced with the choices back at 17, only living in America for 1 year and only speaking English 1 year, what am I going to do? I knew I want to be successful and I knew I want to be the best I could be. So with extremely limited English and extremely limited knowledge of the educational system in America, I applied to Eastern Michigan because it was closer driving than going to U of M. I had no idea the difference between ratings of universities back then. And then I realized I have to pay for it. So likely back then, one credit hour cost around $90. It was under $100 when I started school. So a full year, of classes, 15 courses, right? So it's $1,500 for credit hour for semester, $500 for books. So $2,000-$3,000, I pretty much covered all my educational expenses. So by working, I was able to pay for my school. And when I graduated from university, I think I had only a couple $1,000s in debt. The situation is very different now. I'm mind-boggled by the cost of tuition now. And I'm shocked that kids graduate from universities with $250,000 degrees. without understanding how their profession and occupation is going to even pay for it. So, but the bottom line, what I wanted to share in this experience is that I had those choices of going to school because I saw the benefit of education, starting the business. I would go to classes in the morning. I would go to dance schools in the afternoon. I would fly to trade shows and business meetings in the morning, take red eye from California so I can be on time for Monday morning classes. I would do homework in airports and do whatever else it takes to succeed. So climbing the wall was, much more challenging back then from the basic perspective. Now it's a bigger challenge of the responsibility that's on my shoulders when it's much bigger enterprise, a lot of people involved, and a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, you should have been the global student entrepreneur, award winner back in the day. Like, that's pretty awesome. Like, in the middle of school, you're trying to do this. EO, actually, Entrepreneur Organization, has an award, and they have a show actually on Disney Plus, I think. I cannot recall the name of that show right now, where they do a little bit of a documentary following that contest for the best student entrepreneur in the world. And I like that what you said about the responsibility. At Leadershipity, we train up leaders to understand that with your own people alone, you are making a decision for 4 for every person. So if you have a group, an industry, and an organization of 250 people, you are likely making a decision for 1,000 people because they have spouses, they have significant others, they have children, they have responsibilities, they're taking care of adults. Everyone is responsible for about three people besides themselves in a general family as an average. And so leaders can't shake that responsibility of running an organization. And now I think you just added a great facet to that for me, which is my vendors too, right? Like, they are also relying on our increased business. Their families are on the line on this. And when all of a sudden, like you said last year during a pandemic, and 90% of our orders have lowered, right? Like, wow, I can't imagine that impact and that wave that goes out across all those vendors, all those employees, all those things that have to happen. That's a hard thing for people to always understand. Even me, and I'm in the business, right? I am in business, and it's hard to even fathom it in my mind. So let's pivot for a moment to, what do you think your superpower is? What separates Aleksandra from other leaders? What's helped you get there and maintain and sustained your success?
Resilience.
Talk to me a little bit more about that. Yeah, talk to me more about that.
Well, it's during the COVID, when the world was shattering.
Yeah,
I had to take an inventory of those superpowers.
Yeah.
And I realized that my superpowers are my network of people, my team, and my knowledge and experience and expertise in fields of building businesses. Mm-hmm. And I realized that no matter what happens in the world, nobody can take that away from me. And no matter what happens in the world, there will still be a need for something, whether it's a product or whether it's a service. And I believe that with my knowledge and with my expertise, I will be able to find those opportunities, pivot the organization, recoup the team if necessary, and move forward. And when we had, sometimes even double-digit sales per day coming in, and the team was afraid to tell it to me, not to upset me even more, I had to think deep inside, what am I going to do? Am I going to just stop and call it a day? And, probably with my education, with my skills, my experience, I can always find a job or way to make some living. But again, I had the responsibility in front of all of my team members plus 4. and vendors and clients and everybody else. And I said, well, no matter what happens, I have the confidence that between my team, my network, and my ability to build businesses and find opportunities, will survive. So I think that was one of those moments where the resilience really came in.
I like that. I'd like to talk a little bit more about that. Like that one, do you think that's the one value? It may be for you, but let's talk about an overarching for all, right? What do you think one value, belief, an action that someone should take when they're down to consider, how I might turn things around? Like how it might help me turn around. Where do I get grounded into the foundation of that one value, belief, or action? What do you think that one thing would be for you, or you'd recommend?
I go back to my foundation of why I chose to do what I'm doing.
Okay.
And it's all those reasons. What is your why, right?
Yeah.
Why?
Simon Sinek.
Simon, yes. A lot of good points from him. But, I make those lists, in my little notebook on a regular basis. And I read to them, not only on January 1st, not on my birthday, but I read them on a regular basis. And in the moments of hardship, that's where I go back to see what is my purpose and what is my mission, what positive change I want to make in the world. So in the moments of despair and the moments of struggle and the moments when we perhaps need to change the way we're doing things, I would go back to, again, take the inventory of all my skills and my team's skills, of the changes we're seeing in the world and the kind of the mega trends, right? What am I passionate about and what are people willing to pay for? And those circles and those lists probably will change, but there should be something still in the middle, hopefully of all four, or at least three, that we can recoup and start and pivot.
Okay, love it. Let's ask a couple questions. I'm going to see if there's any questions in the audience. I have a couple things for you talk to me a little bit about the life coming over when your mom said, hey, we're going to do this. You've got friends in Russia. I mean, you're a young lady becoming a woman quickly here at 16 years old. And the challenge of leaving always what you've known to a very unknown, if that's fair. I mean, and you're thinking, I think this is a good idea, but like, are you thinking it's a bad idea at the time? Walk me through your mindset at that time of that challenge for your family, for you and your mother.
I think I saw the bigger opportunity than the challenge.
Yes.
The challenge of leaving all my friends and my family, the challenge of leaving my dance school and my other hobbies I was doing, the challenge of not speaking English, the challenge of my parents, going through divorce and now me being in the new family. It all was there, but somehow I looked at the excitement of coming to America and living the American dream that outshined all the other things. And, I went to Huron High School in Ann Arbor, Michigan with a dictionary. And that dictionary was giant. It was like this big. It was this thick. It was red color. Because again, there was no internet with the Google Translate. So
that's right.
I would bring all my textbooks and my notebooks and the red dictionary. And at school, everybody's like, yeah, this Russian girl with the red dictionary that runs around school, because I didn't understand what was written in the textbook or on the board.
Sure.
So kind of you go through those funny moments of either translating things with a red dictionary, of not having friends, or adapting to the completely new family, new traditions, learning how to drive just so you can get to work and make $5 an hour that you would spend money to drive and to pay for gas and everything else. But like, that was the first step. It was way better than not having it.
Yes. So when you're sitting there, right, and you're 14 or 15, you said something interesting to me, which, we hear it a lot, but we probably overlook it, I think. You said, hey, I saw the opportunity in the American dream. As a 14 or 15-year-old, just prior to that, you'd learned something of what an American dream looks like or means. So what did it mean to you?
It means to me to have the environment where I can grow both personally and professionally, where there's no limit to how high I can go, how much I can earn, who I can become as an individual, as a leader, as a community contributor. I can positively impact the community around me by creating jobs, by stimulating business, by fostering international relations, by participating in a local community and governments, and by bettering life for those around me, for those who are willing to work hard. So to me, that's the American dream, being rewarded for this, and then choosing to do what I really love to do. And nobody forces us in America to choose one career over another. We have a complete choice of it. I mean, it's not like there's a quota that the government pushes on us of what job we need to get.
I love that. Two words that really stuck out in that, right, was limit and choice, right? Like there's no limit. The sky is the limit. We always hear that as kids, right? You know, the sky is the limit, Aleksandra. And you're like, how high is that? Like, you know, what is that? So, and then two is, you know, hey, it's your choice. You know, and having 5 children of my own, right? I often am caught up with kids making choices that I probably don't agree with, right? As their father. And I'm like, you know, but you are free to make that choice. You will also be free to suffer the consequence of that choice, right? Like they go hand in hand, right? And so we have both, and we know, hey, listen, sometimes those choices turn out great, and sometimes the choices we make turn out very poorly. But one of the things I want to kind of pivot off this is that it's something very interesting that you and I have talked about previously, is we have women leaders I have a lot in our company, right? We have a lot under leadershipity that we work with, and it is becoming probably the fastest growing demographic here in leadership, because we're seeing, you know, 10% CEOs, which will near 20% at the track within another year and a half, right? So it's going fast that, hey, some of these skill sets that really serve our organization, some of these skill sets we need, there's tons of women who have them. Why can't they lead? And they've proven it and they've done it well. So why not? Right. And this isn't new news to you. And you've never felt like you've been limited as a woman leader. So talk to me about when you say no limits, my choice, you don't see limitations. Why do you think, I mean, are there limitations? Are there benefits? What should other women know, especially young women, going into this world right now and going at it and saying, I want something pretty big for me and my family, and I'm willing to do the work?
Trent, that's a very interesting topic you bring up. And I grew up in a society where women had an equal pay with men, as pretty much everybody else in Soviet Union. But I also felt that I'm more in the advantage, right? I received the same education as all of my male classmates. I can participate in the same clubs. I felt that, you know, I can register the company and be an entrepreneur in America. Yep. In my dance industry, it was predominantly female dominated.
Yes.
From the dancers to the dance teachers to the store owners. So also, I felt like I am on a completely equal ground. I mean, I felt a little bit of, in the beginning, disadvantage that I was 20-year-old starting the business, that I didn't know anything about how to run the business, but I learned. And I didn't speak very good English, and I had a very thick accent. But over the years, it improved. So I did not build my career as an entrepreneur thinking that I'm disadvantaged. I actually thought I'm advantage, because I can also, you know, maybe sweet talk my way into an appointment, or I can charm my way out of a challenging situation. I can smooth out edges from the conflict. I never thought that we as women in disadvantage. Granted, I never worked in the corporate world. I don't know what it's like to be there.
Yes.
And I take points of the women who have the challenges of the glass ceiling very, very seriously. And there's so much that's being done already about this. But I really felt like I was always an advantage. It never crossed my mind until started being told now over and over again that we're in disadvantage.
Yeah. Well, I think what I've always seen is there's bias. There's bias for a lot of things. There's probably bias for male dancers, right? Like the entertainment is these beautiful women with their gorgeous lines, skill, fitness, expertise, and we don't want to see a guy in this. Like this is what we want, right? And it's like, okay, you have to give the entertainment what they want. This isn't so. There may be something to that. Like there's probably not, you said, like there's not the amount of males in dance that there are of females. Fine. Like that is what it is. I don't know if it's wrong or right. It just is, right? And I love the way that you described like not focusing. What I heard you say was you're not focusing on where people are telling you no. Like I'm focusing all the things that I can do. Like I can. No one's asking me, and we always. In the United States, and you found this out probably pretty quickly, right? As you went to university, we focus so much on your grade point average. What's your grade point average? And you're like, man, I've never had a bank as an entrepreneur ask for my grade point average. Like I have a really good one. And if my credit score was as good as my grade point average, I'd probably get more money loaned out, right? Like, so it doesn't, there's a different KPI for that. And there's emphasis on something that is important at that level. But it may not serve importance lifelong, right? I don't think we've ever met anybody now at our age and our experience where like, hey, Aleksandra, good to meet you. What was your grade point average at Eastern Michigan? I've never had someone ask me that question, right? So,
yeah. And whether we get a contract from client or not doesn't depend on our GPA. So focus on yeses instead of nos. Focus on your strength instead of weaknesses. Manage the weaknesses, improve them if you can, and focus on opportunities instead of what is not possible. There've been so many doors closed in front of me. I heard so many times no. I had the phone hung up on me because they couldn't even understand what I was offering to them. But you know what? There was more people on that cold list that I could have called. So it's focus on yeses instead of nos.
You've had a lot of success. You've won a lot, right? I mean, you've got a thriving, I love Russian Pointe, Flex's big brand coming on. What's the best battle that you've conquered in your lifetime?
I think the best battle I conquered in my lifetime
is... The best battle, maybe the hardest battle, but you conquered it. Like you overcame it. What's the hardest challenge that you faced and overcame?
I think having low self-confidence and not being sure in myself and my abilities. And it took me, say, 2 decades of being an entrepreneur until I actually felt confident in what I'm doing. And, by that time, I already went to Harvard. I already built a multimillion-dollar business. I already had a distribution centers in America and in Europe. I have hundreds of retailers that sold my brand. I went to Harvard. I just did so. I had the awards, but I didn't feel confident deep inside. And it was not until one turning point that I actually felt confident. And no matter what the people were telling me, I still didn't feel confident until I started feeling it inside.
What was the turning point?
So I had a company that came in that wanted to buy my company. And we went through the exercise of preparing the doc and doing the presentations. And as I sat there doing the presentation for this large private equity firm, I realized how much more I know from potentially the people that I would have to report to. And none of these people in a fancy suit sitting in front of me build a business. None of them done it from scratch. None of them overcame the challenges that I overcame. And from the questions they asked me and from the answers they gave me when I asked them about their vision for what they're doing, from their obstacles, from their analysis, I drove back to my office from that meeting, and I realized is that I know so much more, and I'm so confident in my abilities as an entrepreneur. And instead of selling my company, I actually went around and a couple months later ended up buying the FLX brand, which now is growing to be a superstar brand as well. So I think we all have those turning moments. And until we feel it inside, no matter what everybody else tells us and what awards we receive and what articles we get and the video appearances, it's on the surface. It's not deep inside. So I hope whatever your battle is, internal or external, each person will overcome this. And you just never know when it's going to happen.
Yeah, one of the things I want to come back for a second, just to talk to people out there and listen to this, because I think this is really important of what you did, right? You've always been a journaler. Is that right? You journal, you write down. And I love what you said earlier, which is I don't just look at on January 1st, right? Like, hey, it's a new year. I've got my, resolution, right? You are in it. And our journaling typically reflects our thoughts, right? It reflects our mind. And for you who are out there, and if you have, we're reading everybody else's stuff. And listen, I love Jim Collins. I love Simon Sinek. And I do love some great authors that offer some great content, right? And that's awesome. But you are a great author, right? And you should know thyself, and reading what you wrote to yourself and seeing that. My guess is if I were to open up Aleksandra's journal prior to that moment, I would see a little bit different tone about Aleksandra on Aleksandra than I do today. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
People take a lesson from that. That's big. And I'm telling you, Aleksandra, I don't think you are on an island with not feeling like, I'm not confident enough. I don't know enough. I mean, we run the imposter syndrome all the time. And sometimes we don't even believe it till I read off all these things you've done, the awards and all this stuff. And you're like going, whoa, that was me, because I've been busy. And I felt like there was a lot of failures along the way, which of course we don't tend to bring up, right? Except on my show where I get to talk about where we buffed it up. But I want to, before we go, first of all, thank you, Aleksandra. This is so awesome. I know our listeners will see the value in this episode. I enjoyed learning about, you coming over as an immigrant and what that looked like. And actually not just envisioning the American dream, but actually doing it. And I mean, I'm so proud of you for that. Like, I just think that's awesome. I learned about journaling and the value of reading our own book. We're always reading everybody else. Are we reading our own story and learning? We don't go back to our notes and our goals on the first of the year and on June, for us entrepreneurs, June 30th is a big one because of the halfway year mark, right? July 1st, a quarter, second quarter ends and you're halfway. So you can spend July 4th mulling over what's happened in the first half and what I need to do in the second half. I'd like to finish with this, Aleksandra, which is the best way to win. I mean, is there something you want to share with the listeners that we did not touch on today? Maybe something else that you find very important to you for them to know going forward. Hey, I'm going out there. I will face trials. I will face challenge. No one's immune. No one gets out of that, right? What do you think maybe is one thing on the best way to win?
Know why you chose to be on this journey, and believe that internally you have the strength to overcome any challenge, so you can live your dream, not just dream your dream.
I love that. Like we say that all the time, live the dream. Like, hey, you got to actually do it. And Aleksandra, I think that's so great. For everyone else, Aleksandra, thank you again for coming. Where can we find you again?
Aleksandra.com or on LinkedIn, Aleksandra Efimova.
And you can find her podcast, 5678, which the 8 is written out in full, right? Like 5678. That's her podcast. You can find that on all the major networks. Follow our show, on YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, our Leadershipity channel. We always record and it is there. Again, we are on Leadershipity on Instagram and Twitter. I am at Trent M. Clark on all the social networks. You can find me there. Please like our content, enjoy our content, subscribe to our show. We have some great shows. It's pretty awesome. And look for our upcoming book, The Pyramid of Leadershipity, Accountability for Leaders. And look for your Flex products too, by the way, because Aleksandra, she is delivering top line and Russian Pointe products. If you have a young child in dance, like, you are probably going to buy her products at some point. So DM me, email me, let me know what you think. I'd love to hear it. If you enjoyed our episode, rate us 5 stars. People continue listening. We work hard to deliver value delivering stories from 1%ers, just like Aleksandra. And as I was assured, Aleksandra delivered as usual. Aleksandra, I got last question for you. Is there a go-to reading for you, a quote, a verse, something that you go to when things may be not going right for you? And you've had this in the last year. Is there something you go back to read and it can level you, can set you back on your foundation and get you righted?
The ship is safe in the harbor, but it's not what ships are built for.
Like, you're gonna just challenge everybody, Aleksandra. I love it. Like there is gonna be risk in this world, and this is not what they're built for. Us baseballers, we have you can't steal second base with your foot on first, right? And so similar mantra there. I have a verse for you. When I have a guest come on, I look at a verse, I think about it, pray about it during the week, about who's coming in. And I always want to consider the person. And I usually know people pretty well. But I went to Proverbs 4:26. Give careful thought to the paths of your feet and be steadfast in all your ways. And I think about that every time, Aleksandra. I came across that verse and I was like, listen, like, you are thoughtful because you know your why. You know exactly who you want to be. You know why you positioned yourself in this. You know what you're going for. If you have not followed Aleksandra's posts, you will be delighted and encouraged and motivated, because she puts things out there into the world that are delivering high quality content and information for you to be better, to feel better. And it's awesome. And the products do the same from your health and wellness. So, but then, be steadfast in all your ways, right? When she's telling you that quote of the ship, right? This is what it's built for, right? She is steadfast in her ways. She is steadfast, and this is how I can do the product. This is how we'll get out of this challenge. This is how we serve people well. And she stays the focus on that in all time. And when you meet her personally, which I hope you get to someday, you will realize she's very focused and diligent and professional about the way she goes about her brands, and takes her responsibility in utmost care for those that surround her and have built her up, which she's thanked today, which is, again, a mark of gratitude. So for me, Aleksandra, I am so thankful you could join us today. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much, Trent. And thank you for all the audience who joined us today. I'm wishing you much success in all aspects of your life.
Great. For everyone, thank you for listening. We will see you next time in the next episode on the Winners Find a Way show.